Steve, I managed to survive the cyclone. It's been an up and down, but anyway, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right. Our part has not been struck as severely as you guys up there. We've got a little bit of power and got a little bit of internet, so that's a good thing. You're generally doing okay?
Yeah, a little bit of internet being the correct term, because even now, a week after the event, we still are intermittent streaming. So right now, you're very juddery, the image I can see on the screen. This will be interesting to see if we can actually do a full recording. I am sure we can.
I'm sure that we've had to pull it off.
What are we going to talk about?
Well, what an appropriate time to talk about what sort of superpower would you have for one day? Well, how appropriate would that be?
I'd be the internet man.
Internet man. Love it.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because when things like what's just happened, Cyclone Gabrielle, and of course, what we've had, I think, is the worst in 30 years. There are some parts of the world get it regularly, almost every year. Well, you refocus what you think would be a great power to have, helping people out, get them some power back, get back to normal. That would be a great superpower. We had organised this way before then, so I'm assuming we're going to be a bit serious, a bit comedic at the same time.
Oh, who knows? Who knows? See where it rolls.
Okay, so you start then. If you had a superpower for one day, what would it be?
I didn't realise quite how many superpowers that there are. And they're broken up into like core functions, aren't they? What they sit within, sort of concept superpowers or something else, or functional superpowers. When we were talking about this, one of the things that came to my mind was the Ricky Gervais, Steve Merchant, and the Idiot Abroad.
Oh, yeah.
And he's talking about the superpower that he would have, which is a big bullshit man. Whenever he flies into a room and people are talking, he'd go, bullshit, which I think was quite a cool superpower, calling BS out. I think looking back over my life, the one that would have been most beneficial to me to have would be invisibility.
Right. Appropriately, I assume.
Very appropriate. Yeah, invisibility would have been it. I mean, I spent a long time on surveillance and working on surveillance, so I became very grey anyway. But invisibility would have been a fascinating superpower to have, because you could have got in quite close. Do you know what I mean?
What would be useful, and I may be putting you on the spot here, if we talk about our superpower, what would be your nemesis? Because they all have nemesis, don't they? Superman has kryptonite. What would be the name of your superpower? What would you be?
What would my nemesis be called? Or what would I be called?
Yeah, and what would your name be? Perhaps what would you look like? Well, you wouldn't look like anything because you'd be invisible.
I'd be invisible, yeah. I'd be who, where. They would be my pronouns. Who, where.
Yeah, sure. Okay. What?
And my nemesis, goodness, I don't know. I have no idea who my nemesis would be. My brain doesn't work like that. I can't have anybody that would be against me, surely.
Well, that's true. That's another thing. How come all these people with superpowers always have someone who's trying to kill them?
Yeah, it's a bit rude, isn't it? You know, if you've got a superpower, you're actually there to do some good, aren't you?
There's an interesting aspect about that. Superman, of course, is American in a way. You know, he ends up in Smallville. But someone, imagine he'd landed in the Soviet Union. How that would have worked out. What would he have looked like, and would he have been the same kind of superhero? Quite interesting.
Reminds me of a conversation I was having with my father this morning around the narrative that is being pumped out around the Russia-Ukraine war and just the difference depending on what perspective you sit. And so had Superman landed on that side, who knows? His POV may have been very different to that side.
And also, why do we need super people? I think this action comic, 1930s, and Superman came out. There's been long articles and scholarly talk about, does it reflect the unease that specifically Americans had at that time? That they needed somebody, a normal person who could come to help them, like Batman. Batman's really just a detective. He just has all the gadgets and the cool look, but it's a bit like you, Steve. He's a copper.
I was the detective. I had the gadgets and the cool look.
Well, you had the gadgets.
Don't know what you're trying to say there, mate.
You look perfectly all right to me, Steve.
Yeah, you're a good man.
So invisible.
Yeah, I reckon invisibility would be a pretty cool superpower to have. I'd quite like it to be linked into another one, though. You know, I'd like more than one superpower. And actually, if I could choose any sort of superpower to have, it would be probably the ability to go back in time and teleport. So the two combined, you know, teleport back in time somewhere to any place, any position. Just love to see things.
Okay, such as?
Oh, all sorts of stuff. You know, you think about the history books that we have today. I mean, you do all these series on ancient Rome. How nice would it be for someone like yourself with an avid sort of love of history to be able to take yourself back to one of the imperial courts of Caesar, whatever Caesar you want, stand there in the corner and actually observe with your own eyes what was really going on, and then come back and compare it to how the history's reflected.
Michael Palin did a film, I think it was called Jabberwocky, and it was like the Holy Grail, but a bit more rough and ready. And it had Alf Garnett in it. And first meet him, or one of the first scenes, where he's got his backside out of a window taking a dump, because this is like the medieval period. You get these films where they teleport back into time, but it's never like into a privy or anything like that. It's never into cow manure. No. It's just always exactly where they want to be.
You've got to go back to where you want to be. But that'd be quite fascinating, wouldn't it, to be able to do that?
It would. It's the old adage, isn't it? If you could go back and you could pop off someone famously in history, and I mean kill them, not something else, would you and should you?
That's the question, isn't it? I don't know. Who knows? I mean, cause and effect. And there's loads of movies have been made about these sorts of things, isn't there? I think was it Inception that you change something just slightly and off it goes into some other way of outplaying itself. I don't believe it'll ever happen. It's just purely philosophical, how many angels dance on the head of a pin.
You mentioned Christopher Nolan. One of my favourite films of his is Memento. Everything's running back, very cleverly done. Time, we see it as though it's like a line, but it could be shattered, it could be all over the place.
Oh, it could be totally, it could be totally fractured and fragmented. Yeah, we just look linear, don't we? From point A to point B.
Yeah. And I'm not sure in our age, even with our skills, even with your skills of detection and whatever, and being ex-military, whether we'd survive very long in the past, I'm not sure we would.
I don't think that many people from this modern era, if you lifted them up and dropped them back in somewhere even 100 years ago, I think that we would struggle with lots of things. Because everything that we rely on, we've become very consumeristic and we've become very reliant on technology. How many people do you know that can strip an engine down, that can rewire a house, that can run the plumbing, can lay the drains, can do all of this labouring work that actually allow us to live, grow their own food and provide their own shelter? Two of the sort of key things that you need to survive. How many people can do that? Most of the people that I worked with in the world that I worked in couldn't do that. They do it for hobbies and that sort of thing, a bit of DIY at home. Actually being able to go out, hunt and gather, get your own food, grow your own stuff, know which veggies to plant, where and when, they couldn't do it. I think we'd be screwed.
I totally agree with that, absolutely.
There's lots of things, isn't there? I'd like to be able to fly. I used to have a recurring dream of actually seeing myself flying, which was quite bizarre. And I really feel this inside of me. And it was a recurring thing for many years, where I'd just be zooming over the landscape, not with a red cape and underpants on outside of my trousers, but just literally, as I'm asleep in bed, I'm just out and I'm gone. Wow. And I'm just flying everywhere. Fascinating. And you always wake up thinking, flipping heck, how did I get back?
I often had a dream where I was trying to fly, and I was really pumping the arms, and I was getting higher and higher, but I couldn't quite get over the houses. I kept running my knees along the roofs and the shingles, and it really hurt, and supposedly psychological, trying to break free out of a situation or whatever. And it was during the divorce of my mother and father, and I wonder if it's like, I want to break free. So for you flying over the countryside, you obviously didn't have that.
I was gone, mate. I was away with the fairies.
That's right. Or astral telepathy, as some would say, Steve.
Yeah, some would say. But yeah, so flying would be quite cool. Magic, I quite fancy a bit of Doctor Strange, a bit of being able to do all that melding magic and open up doorways into different places and play with the arcane. That would be quite fun, wouldn't it?
So where are you then with the multiverse?
And I don't know if this would be the multiverse or not, it probably wouldn't, but I guess I see things in terms of dimensionality. So concentric circles going out, we're in the middle of it, possibly, or we're somewhere in these circles, and then you have this flow probably in and out, actually, so we're probably maybe not even in the centre, we're one of these concentric circles, and dimensionality. And I think that's probably what spirituality is. It's a dimensionality where there are dimensions that you can move in between. Yeah. We can't, because of our physicality, but maybe once a spirit is released from the body, that's what happens. And I think that sits well, I think nobody's corrected me yet, but I think that sits well with my general sort of belief as well. Wouldn't be termed in that way probably by most normal people, but it's certainly how I see it.
Well, I'm fascinated with the word normal here. What's normal?
What is normal? What is normal? Yeah, so there you go. So there's a few. Bit of magic, bit of flight, bit of invisibility, bit of teleporting.
Well, I've got a couple.
Go for it.
I'll mix and match. I actually did 3 funny and 3 serious. Won't probably get through all of them. I'll just go down the list. I called myself Comic Man.
Comic Man.
Because everyone would laugh at my jokes. Everyone would get the humour. They'd suddenly realise it's not just sarcasm, it's a profound amount of wit. And, of course, my kryptonite would be bloody hecklers. But anyway, what's he mean? So, Comic Man. And I'd have a big cape with laughing mouths on it and stuff like that. That's my first superpower. And on a serious note, I didn't know what to call this one. I'd probably call myself Rhetoric Man. I would have this superpower that I can make everybody see the other side of an argument or a debate. And my sign would be a parachute. In other words, you don't have to accept what the other people's saying, but stop arguing and just say, yes, I see what your point is, or do you understand my point? And rather than trying to get one over, yeah, I see. What could we agree on? That would be my superpower, just for one day.
It's nicely with my BS man.
Yes, they could be partners in crime, so to speak. And there would be many crimes with that one. Another one, a funny one, just to give you 2 more. Catman. But this was a guy who would spit fur balls. And for no known reason, he would suddenly lay down in front of you, lift his leg so that everyone can see him licking himself. That's his superpower. And he's quite a dangerous one, this guy. He would swipe out for no reason. just to get out of the way.
When he spits 2 fur balls, would he then be Catman dieu?
Oh. I like that one. That's excellent, yeah. And of course his kryptonite would be any dog or stinking kitty litter. Anyway, Catman. But to finish off on a more serious note, Parachute Boy, which is linked to the other. In fact, I showed my list to my wife and she said, they're all mental.
She's used to you.
Yeah, well, she should be by now. It's been... Actually, this August, we would have known each other for 40 years.
Goodness me. Well done.
Yes, thank you. Well done. You stay together. Parachute Boy, because the superpower of this guy, or Supergirl, would be to have empathy for everybody. It's linked to the other one. Not sympathy. Oh, so sorry that happened to you. But yes, I can see your point of view and I can see where you're coming from. Because I don't know why, I get the sense that we've lurched into a world where tribalism, people don't want to see what the other people think or even go anywhere near them. My superpower would just to be calm down and just have a bit of empathy for each other. So anyway, over to you. Any more?
I'm still stuck on Catman-Do. Great superpowers and very light-hearted. Your wife is absolutely spot on. They are all a bit bonkers.
No, that's interesting how you interpreted that. I didn't mean mental as in mad. I meant mental as in, they're all up here in the head. Physical things. Although I think you're all right. They are a bit mad on reflection.
I reckon Joe was using it in the bonkers sense.
That's a future episode. Because do we always understand what is said to us?
Probably not.
I'm not sure.
No. Well, I certainly don't. Most of the time I can't hear what's said to me because I'm getting a bit old and deaf now.
Sorry?
Which is probably quite fortunate. Yeah, what did you say?
Yeah, what was that?
Saw your lips move. Can't hear you.
It's not man listening then. It's not like selective.
No, I'm just a bit deaf. Too much gunfire. Left me a bit Mutton and Jeff.
It was all those Bofors.
Yeah. Naval gunfire. That's what done it.
I used to hate that. If I was to go into shock mode, it's being on the flag deck and those things going off. I used to hate it. I just knew it was going to come. I couldn't stand that.
Good bit of gunfire. Smell of cordite.
So look, I've got 2 more. Have you got any?
Psychokinesis.
Oh, okay. Explain.
Well,
You can move stuff.
Yeah, so psychokinesis, being able to move stuff. But I guess if I was invisible, that wouldn't be a problem anyway because I'd just pick it up.
Well, it depends what you want to move. Some things are so big and heavy, they can't be moved unless it's like by pure willpower.
Yeah, that's it. You got it. But no, I think I'm probably done. You crack on.
Yeah, I've got 2 more. A comedic one, I'd be Captain A-Hole, which, strange enough, there is. I looked it up, but this is different. He's a mock pirate, and he just annoys everyone. He's got the ah, and he's got all the cliched kind of clothes. But of course, his superpower would be to make everyone be just idiotic and flamboyant and almost theatrical. His kryptonite would be wood rot in his leg. He can't keep scraping everywhere because his wooden leg's going. So, Captain A-hole.
Oh, dear.
And the second one, the last one, is just super hope. I would love to have the ability to stop people living in fear or doubt. Just enjoy the world, just enjoy life. and stop worrying about things unnecessarily. And that would be, even for one day, just to give somebody that kind of ability to think, I'm not fearing anything today. That's that like, little holiday. That's what I would love to do.
Have a fear holiday, a stress-free day. I wonder what that feels like. I don't know what it would be like. It's like, I wonder what it would be like to actually go to bed and sleep for longer than 3 hours. I wonder what that would be like. Haven't done that for so long, couldn't tell you.
Have you ever?
Yeah, I used to sleep really well. I went away a long time ago now, 20 odd years ago, did some training with some people in my field of work, and following that quite difficult training, I basically lost the ability to sleep. So for the last 23, 24 years, I've not been able to sleep for more than 3 hours.
Wow. And do you wake up and then fall back asleep again?
No, I wake up and then my mind is straight into gear and I'm constantly on the go. And then I just lay there with a million thoughts going around my head. Then what normally happens is about 15 minutes before I have to get out of bed, I would nod off. And then I have to drag myself out of my pit. Interesting how these things can affect you.
Is it like you're waking up at the same time every night?
Pretty much. 3 hours, drop off, solid sleep, bang, 3 hours done. Wake up. Doesn't matter when I go to bed, 3 hours later. So if I went to bed at midnight, I'd be awake at 3. If I went to bed at 9, I'd be awake at midnight. So it's always 3 hours. 3 hours solid, and then I'm awake. Like Winston Churchill.
In what way?
Well, he used to just sleep for about 3 hours, didn't he? But then he would get up and smoke a copious amount of cigars, drink loads of champagne. Maybe this is what I'm lacking. I need to get up and smoke cigars and drink copious amounts of champagne and have my manservants to bring me my breakfast in bed or something like that.
Well, I often have my manservant in bed.
Yeah, I don't think we need to go down that route.
So there are then our superpowers for one day.
Superpowers and a load of other spurious crap on the side, which is just like a bonus superpower.
Everything would be a bonus if we could have even just one of them. But of all the ones that you have said, which would be the one that you would go for?
If I could have it long term, if it was like a proper superpower and I could have it long term, longer than a day, I would probably like to be able to be invisible.
Interesting. I think I would go for rhetoric, man. Make everyone just not agree with everything or think it's correct, but have a proper debate and try and see the other point of view, even if you don't ever going to change your mind. That's the one I'd like, long term.
Very different, eh? Very different.
One day, you never know, we may be granted our wish.
Who knows, mate? We'll all become invisible one day because we'll all end up 6 feet under, won't we? So we'll be totally invisible then.
Sadly, that comes to all of us.
A lot of indispensable people in the graveyards.
With your own personal belief and my own personal belief, we're never going to meet them again.
There'll be something. There'll definitely be something. We'll probably all have a shock.
I intend to shock a few people.
You've been doing that all your life, mate.
That's right.
I can remember our run ashores.
Yeah, we don't go into those. I no longer do those kind of things anymore, Steve. It'd drown me.
Good man, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you very much. Anyway, I'll see you next time.
Take care, buddy. You look after yourself up there.
I'll try to.
Ta-ra, mate. Bye.